This is Mitch, and welcome to the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'm here with Zachary Beach, and we're talking to him from Rhode Island. Is that what you said, Rhode Island?
Yeah, Rhode Island, that's right.
What?
I said Rhode Island, that's right.
Rhode Island, okay. So they sell a lot of properties on terms, buy properties on terms, do subject to lease options. So we're going to talk about that right after I pay homage to my sponsors, taxfreefuture.com. Taxfreefuture.com. If you don't have a self-directed or self-directed retirement plan, tax deferred or tax free, then man, you're missing the boat here. You really need to find out what this is all about. Taxfreefuture.com. Go there, watch the 37 little video vignettes, find out what your financial advisors are not telling you, find out why they're not telling you that, and let's decide what you want to do from there. It's very interesting stuff. All right, Zachary, where do we kick this off? You're a very busy man. So tell us a little bit about your background and what a day in the life of Zachary Beach is like.
Yeah, so my background actually came from a bartender, personal training background about 5 years ago. So, but over the last 5 years, I've been involved in real estate and primarily buying and selling on terms. But not only do I buy and sell on terms, we actually teach people how to do the exact same thing. We have a really cool family business where I know you've interviewed my father-in-law, Chris, and Mitch, you're going to be writing a forward in our re-release of our book, Real Estate on Your Terms. So I work primarily with him and my brother-in-law and then a fantastic team. So my day consists of a balancing of buying and selling our own property that we do in-house and helping others buy and sell property across the country and help them scale their business, especially right now with everything that's going on. We've seen a huge uptick. So my schedule continues to get compressed.
So I find it amazing because if you pick the right strategy and if you have private money, then the down times become the boom times. So while everyone else in the economy is struggling or fearful, you're booming. You've bought a house a day, right, in the last 30 days?
Yeah, if you look back on our last 2-month calendar, we've almost bought a property or had it under contract almost every day. I think it's been over 45 transactions in the last 2 months, which is amazing to see that we're able to set ourselves up in such a way that that when things go south, we're still able to help both buyers and sellers.
Think about that. What a business. When you do good during the good times, but you boom during the recessions. Wow. You never have to worry, right? The only thing you really have to worry about is I've been planning, tell me if you're the same. I've been planning for the next recession forever, not in a fearful mode. I'm keeping my slate clean, I'm keeping my problems down, and I'm keeping my powder dry, meaning I got plenty of money from private sources or from banks or from my own personal bank account at this point. I'm ready for the next downturn. You know what I mean? Just give me a little tick. What happens in the recession is that banks generally clam up, and so most of your competition goes away, right? Because they're all dealing with bank money or people that are using bank money, and that's how we're buying our houses. And then our buyers typically need to get a mortgage from somebody, in a lot of strategies. And our buyers don't need to get mortgages because we're going to sell or finance them. So we don't need a bank on either end. So that's why it works. The recessions are a great time. Tell me, how are you finding your properties?
Yeah, so we find our properties probably in the same markets in which most people fish in. For sale by owners, for rent by owners. Expired listings is probably our largest market of sellers that we end up buying from. And then, of course, we do some niche lists, primarily if we're looking to buy property on owner financing, we're looking for free and clear houses. But yeah, we're fishing in the same ponds. The difference is that we have alternative solutions other people don't have available to them, meaning we buy property on terms. So if you're a flipper and you go to buy a property, you need to buy a property at 40 or 60 cents on the dollar. Compared to us, we can buy a property at roughly at market value or even slightly above, depending on the terms. So we have alternative options for sellers, from which most people don't. And the amazing thing is what's going on right now. Most sellers can't even sell their property because now the banks are starting to tighten up, and buyers that could qualify 60 days ago no longer fit the criteria. So now it's actually making it easier on us to be able to present terms, or buying on a lease option or owner financing, or buying them subject to the existing loan, because sellers don't really have alternatives right now. So the crazier the market gets, the more the easier it becomes for us to purchase property. And then if you turn around on the backside, like you were alluding to, you got buyers that originally couldn't qualify, and so now they're looking for ways to be able to buy a property. So we're able to present it through our rent-to-own or sell it on seller financing. So now the buyer pool opens up significantly as well. So it's not like we're doing anything different. It's just as the market continues to trend, we're just taking advantage of the opportunities.
Well, so, I am writing the forward for your book, and Chris Prefontaine has got a pretty tight system up there. You guys are teaching it well, and I want to know how important is, I was going to say how important is private money, but are you getting, what percentage of your sellers are financing you?
So if you look at if all of our deals across the board, if you're asking how many of our sellers own or finance the properties to us, it's probably one in maybe 2 out of 10, 20 or 30%. The rest of it tend to be on either buying it subject to, so we're just taking over the debt on the property. And when I say that, I don't mean that we're assuming the debt. It just means we're closing on the property, and we're acknowledging that there's debt on the house.
The property subject to the debt, hence too.
Yep. And then the other ones we're buying on a lease purchase. So we have full control of the property. Title does not transfer. And we're buying it basically on a lease option or a lease purchase. I would say that tends to be probably 6 out of 10 deals. Those are real easy to acquire in the aspect of, and I say real easy, once you get used to the business, the scripts and everything. I don't mean like you're going to be able to walk out tomorrow and be able to buy a bunch of property. I mean, it's easier than the alternative options because you're asking a seller to remain holding the title. A lot of people, that's their main issue, is they're not willing to give up title unless they get all of their money, or at least a substantial deposit. Because out of, I would say 9 out of 10 of our deals, we're putting down zero deposit. A lot of our deals, no down payment. We're not signing personally. We're not using our own credit. We're typically not even getting investor money. Some of our deals, we do have private money involved, but that's certainly not something that we teach to people like when they're first getting involved in the business. There's alternative ways to be able to buy the property with little to no risk on these deals, because you have all the control, but no downside, because our contracts completely protect you.
So I think you might have been talking right down the alley here of, if you're new and you're just getting started, these are some of the strategies that you use to get started, because you don't have a bunch of money. I mean, if you started like everyone I know, and me included, I'll raise my hand here, started broke. I mean, I couldn't rub 2 nickels together. So there are strategies you have to, the strategies I use now are a little bit different than the ones I used to use, because I'm more successful and have cash flow and everything else. So it opens up wider the more successful you get. But I didn't have those choices. And it's a funny thing about the human body. The human body will deal with almost anything and everything you give it, and it'll figure it out. If you just don't run away or let your mind get screwed, you know what I mean? So
the business evolves, right? Mitch, is what you're alluding to. The business evolves. So when you first get started, I was a bartender when I first started. So I didn't have much money. Oh, there you go. So that's something we got in common there. So I was a bartender when I first got started. So I didn't have money to invest in these types of deals. So we bought on a lease purchase because there's little to no money down. And then as our business evolves, and now we personally will hold 60 to 70 properties in our portfolio. We now have people that are dying to give us some private money in order to do more deals. But at first that wasn't the case. Plus, also when you're buying with using these types of options, it's going to help you propel in these recession-proof or recession-resistant, I should say, types of strategies. Because we built this company because of my father-in-law, Chris, who you alluded to, got hit hard in recession of '08. So we looked at all the different strategies and said, which one of these is going to be the best for if the market crashes again or if it goes down again?
When it does. It's not if it's it always goes down again. There's always another recession, you know?
So that's why we went and structured this way, where everything we sign on is with a company. It's never us personally, so we can sleep at night. You know, we don't have a bunch of, investors calling us for money if in dividends, if for some reason the market crashes and all of our buyers disappear. So we just, it was a way to set up to be a really easy transition when we go through certain recessions. And we just continue to build our portfolio, and now is a good time to expand it, especially with everything that's happening.
So you're giving away a free webinar. Tell us a little bit about the webinar.
Yeah, so our webinar, it's about 45 minutes. You'll see Chris on there. We dive into where we find our properties, who we sell to, our different techniques. We have 4 techniques in which we use. But it's it's free, a really good way to be able to dive into, surface level and see if this is the type of business that you feel as though it would be a good fit for you personally, and to start buying and selling property. So really cool way to dive in and get a 10,000-foot view.
Yeah. So I want you guys to go to REinvestorSummit.com/on terms, and that'll get you into the show notes. And by the way, Zach, it's all evergreen over there in the show notes. So if you guys want to add speaking dates or any other thing that you want to talk about, plus there'll be contact information for Zach and Chris Prefontaine's coaching programs and everything they have to offer. So you'll be able to go there to REinvestorSummit.com/on terms and get connected as deep as you want to get connected. But also go there and get your free webinar and learn their angle on things. It's hard to beat free, especially when you're new in the business and trying to find your way. One of the most important things is to find someone that's doing what you want to do, that's the person that you want to be on and off the field, and do your research, do your homework. And then after you've consumed all the free stuff you can handle and that's out there, when it's really time to jump in with both feet, jump in and get a mentor or a coach on some level. You're either going to pay the street or you're going to pay someone who's been there before to keep you out of the ditches. But, there's no free path to success. I mean, either the street's going to get your wallet and just tear you up, and your mistakes, or the things you just didn't know are just going to cost you a fortune, or you're going to pay somebody. And just let me tell you, I did it the hard way. Until I caught on, but I was many years down the road till I caught on that I should have a coach. But it's a lot less anxiety and a lot more calm and steady and less stressful if you'll get someone who knows what they're doing to help you. So whether you pick me or you pick them or you pick someone else, you got to pick someone. And this free stuff, like this webinar, is a way for you to get to sit down with an organization or some people and say, this is how they handle things. This is their demeanor. This is how they talk to us and try to educate us. Find where you fit, And that's the whole point of this whole podcast series that I do. By the way, I'm getting ready to hit my 400th interview. I never dreamed in my life I'd have the amount of content that I have. So the point of this podcast is to try to help people find where they belong. Sometimes I put stuff on here that's not even about real estate. The other day it was Amazon marketing, because so many people have lost their job. There's businesses you can do from your computer. I don't care which way you go. I don't care what you do. I'm just trying to help you find yourself and become financially independent so that you can be the person that you're meant to be on this planet, So when you're broke, you substitute your expertise and your effort and your time for the money you don't have, right? When you were a bartender and you're broke, What were you doing?
Bartending when I was broke. I was trying to basically find my way. I'll tell you that. I was bartending, and then I was personal training at night. I was picking up any side gig I possibly could.
Right. But when you got into real estate, you were, I'm going to guess you were a professional deal maker. You didn't have any money, but if you could tie up a deal on a contract, that contract was worth money, and you got at least 50%. I'm going to guess by saying, here, I got this great deal on this property. I need to find someone to put up the money and share it with them, right? So you're a professional deal finder in the beginning days.
Oh, absolutely. I walk people through that from the beginning. First, you're going to probably be treated as a highly paid virtual assistant, right? Because you're making outbound calls, you're trying to get a hold of deals. Then eventually you can start managing your leads and bringing them from A to Z. Then eventually you can start closing properties and then become that real estate investor and real estate entrepreneur that you truly set out to be. And that's why your percentage of how much you're going to make on these deals is going to steadily climb. But also urgency when you're broke is a whole nother ballgame as well, right? Because when I'm making calls in the middle of the day between bartending and personal training, like my urgency level is extremely high because I got overhead that I'm going to need to pay for, like roof over my head, my wife, bills to pay, right? So it's all about continuing to increase that urgency. And I think as we continue from going from brand new to eventually being, successful in real estate, I would say one of the reasons why a lot of people stay successful, like yourself, is they continue to bring that urgency day in and day out to these deals. So it's continuing to profit in which they want to. Also, one thing that you were starting to hit on, Mitch, I think we should always expand on is you talked about you pointed at your head and you said your mindset. So the difference.
I said, don't get mind screwed. Like, don't believe that it takes money to make money. Don't believe that because there's a recession, no one's doing anything. Don't get mind screwed because this will figure everything out if it's positive and it keeps trying to grow in a different direction. If you let it off the hook and you let it not, and let it sit down, let your mind sit down or let it quit or let it give up, then you're dead. That whatever you're trying to do is not going to work for you. You just have to keep this going. And part of how you make sure that this keeps going is you hire people like Zach or Chris Prefontaine and let them show you what happens during the highs and lows of the economies. There's always a different play.
Yeah,
right?
There was the number one thing. There's two things I wanted to bring up. So the number one thing that I always recognize when, coaching a new person is the difference between someone who's successful and not successful is going to be the 6 inches behind their ears. It's, are they constantly working on their mindset? Because if your mindset is there and you can, keep things positive, if you can be constantly working on your personal development, those things add up. And that's going to be the difference of you actually becoming a successful real estate investor. And then the second thing is the reason why, I talked about the beginning here that we're doing a deal every other month every other day or every day with our community is because they took the positives that were happening throughout this COVID and they ran with it. There was never a moment within our community, we call them the wicked smart community, our associates, that they said, this is bad, we're going to go bury our heads in the sand, which, 90% of the population did, or they went and took a vacation. The community that we work in all thought this is positive. How can we capitalize on these different opportunities that are presenting themselves? So huge difference. It was just how they looked at the current environment. And then because they looked at it positively, we did a bunch of deals. I can tell you that I've talked to so many people, so many entrepreneurs that looked at it completely different. And that's why they're probably not going to have a business when this whole thing opens up again.
So let's talk about your most successful students. And I like to chime in here too. What's a common denominator in the most successful students? And I'd like to start. My most successful students, when I usually interview these people for a long time, especially the one-on-ones, because I want to make sure if I'm taking somebody that I really have a good chance to help them. If not, we'll move them down the ladder a little bit to something that's a little more affordable and find out if the business is for them. You know what I mean? So, but one of the things I notice about the people that make it, if I call it their had enough meter. Their had enough meters pegged way over in the red. They've had enough of this freaking crap. of people telling them when to get up, what to wear, when they can go on vacation, if they can go to their kid's basketball game, and they've just had it up to here, and they're not going to take it anymore. And whatever has to happen, whatever they got to go through, they're willing to go through because they're not doing it anymore. You see that?
I think that, yeah, I heavily motivated people that, yes, I completely agree with you. That had enough. As soon as you said that, I thought of a couple of our high-performing associates or our high-performing students. The other thing I would say that they're extremely committed. Yeah, they're motivated, great, but they're also committed not only to themselves but their family, but also to the process. And then secondly, it's discipline as well. So we have a very particular system that has worked and produced lots and lots and lots of deals, and has helped many people become successful and grow their own business. People that deviate from that process, especially at the beginning, we tend to see are not very successful because they're not coachable and they don't follow the system. Or they learn, even though they came into the community, they wanted our systems, but then did their own thing. They learned and they came back and then implemented the systems and then they became successful. So commitment to the system, commitment to not only themselves and their family, but to the program, and then being extremely disciplined, like day in and day out, they're getting after it. And maybe, and I bet you it does allude to the original thing you talked about, which is they had enough, so they need a different way.
Well, you can have had enough and not be smart enough to drink the Kool-Aid, which is one thing about doing the research. I mean, you go research these people before you jump off 2 feet. Go talk to people that took the courses, whatever. And be careful about that too, though, because it's always the 80-20 rule. I mean, sometimes in real estate, it might be the 90-10 rule. I know not everybody is made for this business, and this business is not made for everybody. You know, just like flying fighter jets is not made for everybody, right? You know what I mean? I mean, you again, that's what this show's about, to help you find where you belong. So you take a lot of free stuff. We got a free webinar right here. Go to reinvestorsummit.com on terms /on terms and check it out. But do some research, because when you do, go into someone's fold to learn from them, you gotta be open, and you gotta be quit talking and start listening. That's what, when I wanted to take my business to the next level, which was I was trying to figure out how to get me out of the business. I spent $30,000. I went to a mastermind where everybody in the room was bigger than me. That's what I was looking for. It took me a little while to realize that it had been, 8 or 9 years that I had been the person that everyone was looking up to, and I was talking across or down to, and I don't mean literally, but I was talking, I was the big guy in the room. And one day I woke up and I said, man, I'm not growing. I've stayed in the same place for way too long. And the problem was I hadn't gotten a room where everyone was bigger and better than me. So I paid $30,000. I let them unwind me. I stopped talking, and then I let them rewind me the way they wanted to wind me. I bought the Kool-Aid. I let them do it to me. I succumbed. I just said, if I'm going to be like these guys, I gotta let them, put me through the process. And that was one of the best things I ever did. I haven't seen the last 350 houses I bought, at least 350. It might be more now. And I haven't seen the last 350 people that bought my houses. I'm doing podcasts and I'm doing other things. My house business runs now on its own. It was just yet another step on a rung. And it happened when I got out of a room where I was the biggest guy in the room, or one of the biggest guys in the room. I got into a room where I didn't even register with the people in the room. I was so below them, as far as what they were able to accomplish and how much time they had and how much money they were making. Making money is only part of the process, right? You got to have balance. What good is money if you don't have any balance and you can't enjoy it?
Yeah, money is also a natural outcome if you do the things that produce money, right? So if it's setting up your business and doing it correctly, then the natural outcome is that you're going to produce money. Money is an end result. It's not the beginning. So it's, if you do the right things, then you acquire wealth. I mean, it's if A, then B. So I'll have to agree with you. Each and every year, me, Chris, and the internal team, we look at and say, who do we need to hire in order to teach us how to make it to the next level? Like each and every year we look at and say, okay, if we're going to build our business in this direction, who's doing it the best? let's interview a couple people and then let's invest. I mean, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on education. So important that you allude that, because once you are the top person in the room, then you have to start reaching up.
You have to get out of that room, you know. I mean, you can go over there and visit to give back if you want to, but if you want to keep growing, you got to get out of that room. You got to get in a different room. It's just like, you know, you don't stay in the 6th grade forever. I mean, sooner or later, you got to go to the 7th grade. You know, they got teachers that are smarter than the, you know, teaching different stuff. So go to audiinvestorsummit.com/on terms and give me a case study. What's like one of your better deals, you know, here recently?
Yeah, I'd say one of our better deals that just pops up in my head is we actually bought a property. This would be an owner financing deal. So anytime that you can buy a property, this is typically our measures. If you can buy a property that's over $200,000 and you can get over $1,000 principal pay down, because typically the way we buy these properties on owner financing, it's 0% interest, so full 100% principal pay down. If you get at least $1,000 and at least a 36-month term, then you're going to have a 6-figure deal. So on this property, we went and purchased it. It was on expired listing. So just to give you like a source, it was an expired listing. The seller was from out of state. He had a property in Connecticut. It was a family house that he's had for like 20 years on the lake, really nice. The house had it was a main house, but it also had a suite over the garage. So another income source there. So what we ended up doing is we purchased the property on a 48-month term, 48-month balloon. We closed on it. It was free and clear. We crafted up $1,000 principal only payment each and every month. And then, of course, we had to pay taxes and insurance because the title now transferred over to us. We bought it for $400,000. We then turned around and sold it on a rent-to-own for roughly $439,000. We were able to get about a $500 spread on the property because the taxes are super high in Connecticut. So it ends up being like, if you got $1,000 principal payment, taxes were like $700 a month. Because you're probably wondering to yourself why, you're only able to get like $500 spreads because the taxes are so high. $500 spread on there, and we sold it for roughly 24 months. If it goes to full 48 months, it's going to be well over a 6-figure deal. The bonus there is that while we sold this property on a rent-to-own, we still had this suite over the garage, which was producing $750 a month clean. Because we're already paying the taxes and the insurance. So a really cool deal there because you're able to not only sell the property on a rent-to-own, one part of it, but you're able to also access another part as a regular rental. So if you end up coming across some of these deals where there's like a duplex or multi-unit or an in-law suite, you're actually able to create 2 different cash flows from the same property without being a landlord, because when we sell these properties on a rent-to-own, we're not paying for maintenance, we actually pass along the taxes. So you're basically just collecting a check on the property. The only thing I would say would be that I wish I got longer terms, right? Because then I think I cash flow better.
And this is why mentors are important, especially if you're doing the business. They tell you how to capitalize on things that you might not see. One thing I would tell you right now, if you ever happen to negotiate a 0% down loan with your seller, and the seller finances you the house with a 0% loan, make sure you put in your substitution of collateral clause, because what a shame to have gotten a 0% loan and then you sell the house on terms to somebody, and then that somebody comes and wins the lottery next month and pays you off. They just paid off a 0% loan you have with someone. So you want to be able to move that 0% loan to another piece of property if that ever happens. And it only has to happen to you one time, where you have a 0% loan, you're so proud of that loan, you negotiated your pants off, you got it all just right, and then like 6 months later, the person that bought the house from you on payments pays you off. And then you'll remember the substitution of collateral clause every time when that happens, to put it in your
I love it. The only thing I would add on to that is, we want our tenant buyers to be able to be successful and eventually be their own homeowners. Although we're able to get a 0% loan, we're always willing to take slightly less profit on a property in order to make sure that that person is able to be successful. So,
Sure.
but that's a good tip. As always, right? We're learning here on this. I'm always willing to be coachable. I'm always willing to hear.
So, man, I really appreciate you being on today. I'd like to say thank you to taxfreefuture.com. Also, check out my book. It's launched and inspired a lot of careers. My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. It's a 3-book series, My Life in 1,000 Houses, but that one's a story of how you go from 0 to doing 100 houses a year for over 2.5 decades. Man, anything you want to add for the newbies out there if they're contemplating the real estate as a career before we leave?
I think we've covered it a couple of times, but I always say there's a couple step process anytime I want to get involved in something, especially, building my career on it. It's first of all, if you want to be dedicated in real estate, as soon as you dive in, there's so many niches. Go ahead and pick the niche that best works for you. And then second step is to go find, the mentor within that niche, because the truth is, I'm from New England. You may not jive with me. That's 100% okay. So make sure that you're able to be coachable by that person. Make sure you jive with that person. And then third is, as we alluded to, the people that are committed to the process and are disciplined to the process are the ones that are most successful. So as soon as that happens, as soon as you pick your niche, as soon as you pick your mentor, put the blinders on and get after it for the next 3 to 5 years. Don't look back. Don't look left, right. Just continue to look forward. Continue to work with that mentor. And then you're definitely going to see success. I promise you on that end. So that'd be my only advice.
Yeah. Remember, people think that we're gurus or we're in the education business, and we all have coaches, guys. We all have someone we're paying to try to get to the next level that we're going to. We're trying to systematize the office. We're trying to learn to reduce our taxes. Well, I don't know that there's ever going to be a time that I don't have a coach. Because I don't see myself ever wanting not to be growing as a person, whether it's a real estate coach or maybe just some other phase of my life that I want to do. I'm going to have a coach somewhere, because I find that when I just sit alone in my room, I just get smaller and smaller and less, and it's not engaging at all. So, man, I want you to check out the free webinar Zach and his guys are giving away here. Go to REinvestorSummit.com/on terms. There'll be a whole bunch of information over there, and you'll be able to get hooked up with those guys and get more in depth as to what they have to offer and what it takes to be part of their program, and when they have speaking engagements or webinars or seminars. Everything will be over there. So go to REinvestorSummit.com/on terms. All right. This is Mitch Stephen with the Real Estate Investor Summit podcast. I'd like to thank taxfreefuture.com. Please visit taxfreefuture.com. You have no idea what your financial advisors are not telling you. We're going to tell you what they're not telling you. We're going to tell you why they're not telling you. And then you can do with it what you want. And I have a pretty good idea about what you're going to be doing after you figure out how powerful this stuff is. All right, we're out of here. See you later, Zach.